Hey friends, welcome back to another Next Steps podcast. I'm Kim, and we often talk about putting other people first and living generously. And generous giving or living doesn't have to be just about money. It can be time, it can be encouragement, all kinds of things. But I'm much more apt to give generously to people in my life, to people around me that I work with, my friends, my family. And if you ask my kids, they'd probably say, Mom's pretty good at giving. But one way they might say I'm really good at giving is with my advice. I love giving advice, especially when it's not asked for. See, I think the reason is because I love to be controlling and I love to fix things and I love to prevent things. And it's probably because I worry a lot, and maybe you're the same way too. Have you ever noticed when you tend to give advice that isn't asked for, you keep pushing it or maybe repeating or even manipulating to try to get someone to heed your advice? This isn't God's way at all. See, what I've realized is advice, when it's not asked for, always comes across as criticism. See, I may think that I'm really loving someone well because I'm helping them out and sharing what I think, but to them, they may think, gosh, they're doing something wrong, or maybe even they themselves are wrong. But does this mean we're not supposed to give advice at all? That's not true either. But we need to give it God's way. And God's way starts with humility. And humility has become my word for this year. And it probably should be every year, because pride keeps rearing its ugly head in my life. And one of the ways it does is with giving presumptuous or not asked for advice. Well, the Apostle Paul, who wrote the book of Romans, in chapter 12, verse 3, said this. He said, because of the privilege and authority God has given me, I give each of you this warning. Don't think you are better than you really are. Be honest in your evaluation of yourselves, measuring yourselves up by the faith God has given us. So we're to measure ourselves up to God and what He's given us, not compare ourselves to what we think we know or what we ourselves believe we've done, or compare ourselves especially to other people. When we measure ourselves up to God, knowing what He's done for us, we can't help but be humbled. And then he goes on to say in verse 16, live in harmony with each other. Don't be too proud to enjoy the company of ordinary people, and don't think you know it all. See, harmony happens with humility. But when I give or desire to give presumptuous advice, what I'm really saying or thinking is that I know it all. And the truth is, I just can't. Instead, when I have this desire, I need to first go to God and ask Him to humble me so that I can be more empathetic, so that I can listen well and understand that the other person has more information on the situation than I could even have. I need to ask myself, what is my role here? Am I stepping on their toes or even God's toes? And the truth is, stepping on toes always causes damage. It might cause the other person damage, and it might even cause damage to our relationship. So here's our next step. We're going to do some asking. First, we need to ask God. We need to ask Him to humble us. Ask Him to show us why we're feeling such a desire to give presumptuous advice. Is it out of control? Is it out of a need to fix or prevent? Is it because of fear? And then we need to ask Him if we should even give the advice at all. And then after that, if we still feel compelled to give it, we need to turn to the other person and ask if they even want our advice. Maybe saying something like, hey, I know you're going through this. Would you like to know what I think about the situation? And here's the kicker. If they say no, we've got to let it go. I've done that before, and you still feel such a desire. So don't stop praying for the situation. Don't stop praying for the person. Maybe each day surrender it to God. God. This is one of the best ways that we can put other people first and generously give love to them. Well, thanks again for joining me. And remember, next steps are always much more successful with God and with others.